Hi everyone, I just wanted to do a quick video and just to let people know what I'm up to at the moment in my own garden. I'm just about to, well, I've just sown one and I'm just about to sow another edible meadow mix that I've designed, which is a variety of edible perennials from around the world found in meadow plant communities, and then designed looking at their vertical structuring in a meadow through succession. And so these plants have all been used by people around the world for food crops, and then the idea is it'll be low maintenance, because the maintenance will be cutting it once a year and doing some weeding. It'll be high diversity, which will be good for wildlife, because in 1 square metre there could be up to 100 seedlings, and then once it's mature there could be 50 in a square metre. Whereas when you compare that to a garden, how many plants do you have in a square metre in your garden? Unlikely as many. So this mixture is designed on 3 levels. There's a ground cover mixture, that's really a functional layer which covers the ground and provides all year round vegetative cover. And then out of that there'll be seasonal bursts of interest, and then there'll be a structural layer or emergent layer of things like fennel coming out of the tapestry of different edible plants. So it's really beautiful planting. It's high diversity, low maintenance, and I think it's got a lot of opportunity for really creating sustainable gardens. So this is one of the mixes I designed. So what I'm going to do is when I create a meadow, on this smaller scale I'll probably make two different sowings. I'll put half of it into the tub and then I'll mix in some compost, and what this does is it bulks up the seed, so then you can see where you're sowing it. Because if you take say 10 grams of seed and you try to sow it over an area evenly, it's very difficult. So I mix the seed in, give it a really good mix together, and then I'll scatter this across the bed, and then so I'm making sure that I evenly scatter it, and the compost helps me be able to see where I've scattered it. And then I'll do a second sowing, which this will fill up the gaps and particularly focus on the edge, because when you're creating a meadow, the edges of meadows are really important, because if you don't get a thick sowing on the edge, that's very noticeable. Whereas when there's patches in the centre of a meadow, it's much less noticeable. So I'll sow these across. So I'll sow these by hand, and really the broadcasting technique is just to move your hand like that, just holding it loosely and allowing it to come out of your hand. So these beds, I stripped the turf off of these to remove the vegetation competition, and then I've rotavated, and then I've raked them over really finely, removing any roots or large stones to really create a fine till to increase the success of the germinating seeds. And in this mix I've actually added some annual vegetables, things like radish, turnip, beetroot, things which are going to come up fast, fill up some of the bare gaps, and then they'll be harvested and the perennials will be allowed to take over. But I've also added some poppies and nigella, really to get some beauty and some biodiversity benefit in the first season, because really at the start, in the first year, the perennials are establishing and the annuals fill in gaps, but you don't want to put really aggressive annuals, things like borage, because what they do is they push out other perennials in the first year. Whereas if you plant things like the corn poppy and cornflower, they are what you call slender annuals. They grow up and they don't really put out big leaves pushing out other plants, allowing the perennials to grow in the first year underneath the canopy and then take the show the second year. So then what I'll do is I'll take this large head broom and go over the bed. So now I've sown both my sowings. I've done 2 sowings just to make sure I've covered all over the bed. But then I'm going to use this large head broom just to very gently incorporate the seed and the compost into the top layer of the soil. I'm only being gentle with this because I only really want it to go in the top set 1 or 2 centimetres of the soil. And that's because in this mix there are plants with very tiny seeds. And actually if I was to use a heavy rake on this, they would be incorporated too low into the soil, and actually there's quite a high chance that they won't germinate at all. So I'm just being very gentle. But not only does this mix the seed into the top layer of the soil, it also helps distribute the seed across the soil surface, getting an even spread. And when we're creating meadows, we're really doing everything in our power to increase the success rate of the seed, because actually a large percentage of the meadows people create at home fail because usually they haven't applied specific techniques which increase your success rate. So it might not reduce the weed competition, or they might get cheap, poor quality seed, or they might not water. Really, they're the 3 key things what you need to do. So I will keep people updated on how this goes. Hopefully within maybe about 6 weeks to 6 to 8 weeks we should have, well, in 2 weeks we should have good germination of some of the plants in the mix, and within about 6 to 10 weeks there should be some of the annuals flowering. And yeah, I'll keep everyone up to date. Thanks for watching.